there's this kind of continuum which you're in, which is very chaotic without BC AD distinction. But if you're only thinking in terms of the BC and AD distinction, you can't move into the scriptures as a living reality that is constantly, continuously happening.
Right.
So then the apocalypse looks like something that's going to happen off in the future instead of something that's happening throughout the experience of the church in the world, because that is essentially what the revelation of Christ is. When the book of the Apocalypse is talking about the woman going out into the wilderness and being chased by the dragon, this is what's happening throughout the history of the church.
Right. Well, as revelation,
which is how
right?
we
So
read
it's constantly
yes.
revelation.
Yes,
And
yes.
I mean this. So then this is you do actually have to believe in heaven and earth in order for this to make sense. That there is a eruption into our understanding from heaven, and that the scriptures are giving us this frame to be able to see that, and that they are. I'm showing now the rainbow image of the scriptures talking to each other. The scriptures talk to each other, right? It's like it's not just this, beginning to end book. It's constantly referencing back and forth. So I said Matthew is, referencing the fulfillment, but that the apocalypse only makes sense if you know what it's revealing of Genesis. The prophets are only understandable if you see Christ, fulfilling what they said about him. That this self-referentiality of the scriptures is a a representation of the self-referentiality of the incarnation, that God shows himself to us through Christ, and that we have to then see how that touches on everything else. And that is always what the church is trying to say, is this is how we test the truth of something. Does it resonate with this reality?
In communion, not individually.
Right.
With the saints.
Yay, yes, they're resonating with the saints. So what's interesting is, I'd say we have trust in the reality of history because we actually believe in this kind of correspondence in other ways. Yes. So the sort of rationality, the logos of Christianity claims that we can have some kind of correspondence between what we think it says in Tacitus and that 9th century Swiss copy from St. Gall, with what we know from the archaeology of the ancient world, that we're constantly testing the history against other kinds. It's like you're in conversation. That history isn't, oh yes, it happened and we can prove that, and Tacitus says this, therefore Paul is lying. That's not the way it works.
So it's streaming.
Yeah.
History is streaming, with all of these different streamers that are having conversations with each other and trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah.
And then there's this sort of completely, we've referred to it a few times, this sort of mundane problem of Jesus talked in his lifetime. A lot of people heard him. People seem to have remembered things. I thought about this the first time I went back when I was first watching Milo's speeches, and he would repeat the same thing over and over again. I've noticed this with Yay. A lot of our oral performers do this. They repeat the same stuff a lot. And you can see, it's like if Jesus taught, I mean, he always said, the Gospels say, he said he taught consistently. He probably used some of those stories more than once.
Yeah.
Probably, right? That our sense of the what Jesus actually said is about the same as knowing exactly what, if you'd have to listen to all of Owen's streams to know exactly what Owen said, and they're recorded and such, but you could listen to a bunch of them and then come away from it going, yes, he said that. That's the kind of thing Owen says over and over and over again. That's the kind of thing Vox says over and over and over again. That's the kind of thing Ye says over and over and over again. If it's sung, it's actually more durably memorable, because you can sing it again and again and again. But we can see this in our media moment now, the streaming. It's like the people say this. Probably one of the reasons I'm hard to understand is I don't repeat myself enough. So we can assume that Jesus, in his teaching to the people, repeated various anecdotes and stories a number of times. that somehow, because we're in an oral culture, there's always an oral culture because there's always people mainly talking. And then some of that gets media recorded in other ways.
It's like hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like hip hop. It's oral culture that gets recorded and distributed and repeated.
Yay.
Yay.
So, I mean, what's delightful about this is it means that we are in a moment, as we started with Yay, right, in which we can actually see this kind of moment playing out. Right? This person who speaks in a way that's memorable to crowds, that then begin living by the phrases that he uses, which is why, you know, we worry about it and it's powerful and so forth, because human beings seem to do this. And that then we test by, I do think the fruit test is appropriate. We test by the effect that this has on their lives, on their interactions with each other, on the culture that builds up around them. And that the church is, you know, it's that community of worship, that community of remembrance, that community of storytelling, but it also becomes the culture of the way people behave with each other. And, you know, a fundamental value of that tradition is telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Confession.
Mm-hmm. Over and over and over again, the one thing that this tradition seems to say is, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Tell the truth about yourself, about each other. Don't bear false witness. There's nothing. I mean, okay, so there's some casuistry that develops in the 17th or 18th century. Michael Hoffman has some interesting things about that. We're not doing that right now. This is not the history of the church, but the sort of core culture of Christianity seems to be truth telling. I am the way, the life, and the truth. So that at least is the standard that we're supposed to judge the tradition by. It tells us that.
Yes. And I suppose the greatest witness to the veracity of their claim is that the saints were willing to be martyred for what they were saying.
Yeah. You're
not going to be put to death willingly for something that you're lying about.
One assumes not.
I mean, like I said it years ago, like no one just decides to walk to Syria one day to tell stories about a resurrected Hebrew man, like, and risk death. Why?
Right.
Why would you do it? You know?
Well, I mean, with that, so we could do another stream on these sort of, you know, the collective delusion of the resurrection, but it's an amazingly powerful collective delusion, and it seems to, you know, it's like I think there's this one was on Scrolls and Trolls and the problem of, you know, sort of how do we know what is historically real. I think the what does it mean to live as a Christian? What does it mean to live by the things that, you know, were preserved and ended up being printed in these books? That I think is another layer for us. What does it mean to be Christian? If we're allowed to speak as women.
You might have to talk about female saints again.
The great thing about this is it's an inexhaustible topic, right? We can just keep yes. You know, the referentiality keeps flowing. Yeah. Yes, Mel says riverrun, Commodius, Vicus of recirculation. Yes, right, and that's why the Finnegan's Wake is actually playing on this. It's the self-referentiality, not in a Ouroboros, you know, eating its own tail way, but in a growing in reality and truth, that experience. Mm-hmm. And that we're constantly testing what, I mean, ML says, Angel of the Lord kept saying the same things. I hate feeling like I have to repeat myself. Well, we do have to repeat ourselves, and that's, you know, the test of consistency and truthfulness. And can you, you know, judge what I said yesterday by what I'm saying today? Yes, that we are meant to be bound by the words that we said. But that doesn't mean that Paul is lying, because he gives one kind of argument in one context and one kind of another kind of. I'm going to talk in this medium in a different way than I'm going to write in my academic books. I'm still the same person, and I'm still speaking the truth, I hope. Jesus is king, I repeat. Yes.
Yeah, so we're in a media war as Christians. It's a media war.
Yes.
Which we understand. Everyone on unauthorized TV understands, because it's the reason for the existence of the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means the compilation on the platform is demonstrating this problem of the church compiling the books.
Yes.
Exactly the same thing. Do we trust the people on unauthorized TV are compiling the truth, or are they just compiling another fan fiction narrative?
Ooh, edgy.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, do you trust the platform? Do we trust the church, or do we then discard everything that it's compiled and all the streamers?
Indeed. But that we're in this the streaming now is there've been different moments when people have been aware of themselves of being in a community of conversation, like the in printing, right? Obviously people are very excited by the communication they can have through print, but various periods have been letter writing periods, right? Republic of Letters is, people are exchanging letters. That we're now in this moment when not just that people can broadcast, and therefore everyone's been thinking about Hitler for the last week, thanks to Ye, that you can transmit your voice amplified by the microphone or by the radio or that McLuhan moment. But now that we are able to do these overlapping conversations because of these live streams, and do them around the world, even though Skype keeps making you silent. The proper understanding that the Spirit works through all of us now, that if we're open to the Spirit, we can be speaking as a single church and a single understanding. But the test is, this is what the claim of the test of the tradition was always, if it's consistent with the tradition. Okay.
So yeah, we need to be tried, like truly tried. That's what it means to be tried, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants traditional culture, but it's like, no, we want our tradition. We want church tradition. We rely on church tradition to be the medium for our historical understanding, for our narrative as Christians. And without it, we don't have any consistency. Tradition.
Medieval.
I'm not going to say anything
21st century medieval. And that kind of, I think that this resonance is, I still have the image of the scripture rainbow up, right? That scripture is resonating with itself. It's this beautifully acoustic understanding of the word speaking into our experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have come back round to the wrap. We are wrapping.
Yeah.
We've wrapped round. We've wrapped. We've wrapped round the wrap. See what I did there? That's so cool. I could be a rapper. I wonder if EA will hire me as a writer. Okay, so Paper Eating Bear, like you recently said, Genesis and Revelation, which is which? Yes, it Genesis is a revelation. Revelation shows us the creation. Mel, the unique character of the public created by printed word was an intense and visually oriented self-consciousness, both the individual and the group. McLuhan. Mel does her homework in print world, which means we wrap back around there. Yes. So that's I think this is a good wrap. It's a wrap. We wrapped.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. We be here. We begun.